Welcome to Learn English with Sara, where we grow our English skills through meaningful stories. Today, I will share with you a heartwarming and exciting Christmas adventure about courage, friendship, and the true meaning of giving. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the story as we learn English together through storytelling. Far beyond the northern winds, where snow falls like silver dust over the mountains, there lies a magical place called Holly Valley, hidden deep in the Arctic Circle. Holly Valley was home to someone the entire world knew, but almost no one had ever seen. He was a legend of generosity, a guardian of childhood dreams, the one and only Santa Claus. His home was a magnificent snow castle, towering like a crystal palace that shimmered under the winter moonlight. But this castle was more than a home. It was a living, breathing workshop where dreams were built and joy was crafted. Inside the castle worked cheerful elves from the land of Zin and gentle fairies from the forests of Newt. Each year, they spent months preparing for the magical night of Christmas Eve. They carved wooden toys, built sparkling trains, stitched talking teddy bears, wrapped colorful boxes, and filled every corner of the workshop with music and laughter. Time passed not by clocks, but by the rhythm of joy. But not far from this land of light and wonder, high in a black and silent mountain, lived a creature whose heart was colder than ice. His name was Rin, and unlike the others, he despised Christmas. He hated the songs, the decorations, the laughter, and more than anything, he hated Santa Claus. People often wondered why Rin carried such bitterness in his heart. Some said he was simply foolish. Others blamed his shabby shoes that were 2 sizes too small. But those who knew him well would whisper that his heart had grown too small for kindness, shrinking from selfishness, jealousy, and loneliness. Rin lived in a frozen cave with his only companion, a loyal but nervous dog named Mutt. One gloomy afternoon, as Rin and Mutt trudged through the village square to buy some simple groceries, they saw Holly Valley filled with festive lights. Silver bells hung from snowy rooftops, giant candy canes lined the streets, and children laughed joyfully as they decorated snowmen. Every window sparkled with warmth. Rin scowled. "Disgusting," he muttered under his breath. "Garlands, wreaths, decorations everywhere. Why does everyone have to be so happy?" Mutt looked up at him and whimpered softly. Rin snapped, "And it's all his fault, Santa Claus. Every year he brings happiness to everyone, and what do I get? Nothing." Then an idea flashed in his eyes, wild, dark, and dangerous. He leaned closer to Mutt with a grin that twisted across his face. What if I kidnapped Santa Claus without him? There would be no Christmas, no presents, no joy, just silence. Mutt barked nervously, but Rin had already made up his mind. Everyone in Holly Valley knew that Santa was protected by a magical shield crafted by ancient Zin fairies. No one could touch him, at least not while he was in his valley. But on Christmas Eve at 9:00 p.m., Santa would leave the valley to deliver gifts across the world, and during that magical flight, the shield would no longer protect him. That, Rin thought, was his perfect chance. The night before Christmas came, bright and silent. The world was covered in soft snow, glittering under the light of a full moon. At exactly the moment he did every year, Santa climbed into his sleigh. His 8 loyal reindeer Blitzen, Comet, Prancer, Vixen, Dasher, Dancer, Cupid, and Donner stamped their hooves excitedly. Santa laughed, his voice booming like a joyful drum. He tightened the ropes on his enormous red bag filled with gifts and waved goodbye to the elves cheering below. Up into the sky he flew, riding through glittering winds and starlit clouds. He hummed a Christmas tune while tossing snowflakes from his mittens. It was, as always, the happiest night of his year. But he did not know someone was waiting for him. From behind a rocky cliff, Rin launched his trap. A thick rope shot upward through the air, forming a snare that tightened around Santa. Before Santa could call for help, he was knocked off his sleigh and dragged downward into the snowy mountains below. the reindeer, unaware that anything had gone wrong, continued flying forward, pulling the sleigh into the distance. Santa's voice disappeared into the wind. He had vanished and Christmas was now in danger. High in the cold mountains, Santa struggled to sit up. His red coat was torn and snow clung to his white beard. Before he could rise, Wright appeared, dragging a heavy iron chain behind him. His wicked smile stretched across his face. "So, Santa," Wright sneered, "where are you going in such a hurry, delivering happiness again? Not this year, Christmas is cancelled." Santa looked up calmly despite the ropes binding him. "Wright," he said kindly, "you don't have to do this. Christmas isn't about gifts. It's about hope. Kindness." "Hope?" Wright snapped. "Kindness. Do you know what it's like to be alone on Christmas? No one visits me, no one gives me anything. While you fly around the world giving happiness, you always ignore me." Santa's eyes softened. "I never ignore anyone." "Oh, really?" Wright yelled. "Then where's my gift?" Santa opened his mouth to speak, but Wright wouldn't listen. He dragged Santa deep into his frozen cave and chained him to a block of dark stone so heavy that even magic couldn't move it. Then he laughed a sharp, cruel sound that echoed through the icy mountains. "Now that I have captured you," Wright said, clapping his hands with glee, "Christmas will disappear forever." Meanwhile, far away, Santa's sleigh was still racing across the night sky without him. Hidden beneath the seat of the sleigh were 4 of Santa's tiny helpers: Nutter, Zinster, Kipper, and Twinkle the Fairy. They had curled up to rest among the boxes of presents, unaware of the disaster that had just occurred. It wasn't until silence filled the air that Twinkle peeked out and gasped. "Where is Santa?" she cried. "Who is steering the sleigh?" All 4 scrambled out from hiding. Zinster grabbed the reins while Kipper clung onto the side. The reindeer slowed to a stop in midair, snorting impatiently. Nutter pointed back at the trail in the sky. "Look," he said. "Those are Santa's tracks. Something must have happened." "But what should we do?" Twinkle trembled. "We must go back and look for him." Kipper shook his head. "We can't go back, not yet. If we return now, children everywhere will wake up to empty trees, and Santa would never forgive us for that. First, we deliver the toys, then we search for Santa." The others hesitated. Twinkle bit her lip. Nutter looked torn. But deep inside, they all knew Kipper was right. Christmas had to go on for the children. So they delivered the presents on their own for the very first time. The night was long and full of challenges. Without Santa's experience, they made hundreds of silly mistakes. They dropped a doll down a chimney but forgot her shoes. They delivered a toy train to a house with no children. Zinster even got his hat stuck in a window, but they didn't give up, not even once. House by house, city by city, they spread joy exactly as Santa would have wanted. By the time the first rays of sunrise touched the horizon, every gift had been delivered. Exhausted but proud, they turned the sleigh back toward Holly Valley, but when they landed, an awful silence hung over the snow-covered village. The elves were panicking, the bells were quiet, and the workshop doors were locked. "Santa is missing," cried Mrs. Cookie, the chief baker. "His coat was found in the snow." "We must find him," Twinkle declared. "Now." "But where do we start?" asked Zinster. They all looked toward the mountains in the distance, dark, lonely, and dangerous. A place where only one creature lived. "Wright," whispered Kipper. They soon set out across the icy plains, following a trail of sleigh marks buried in the snow. The journey was harsh. The wind howled. The cold bit at their faces. Yet they pressed on, hearts full of courage and hope. At last, near a towering black mountain, they saw something red fluttering against the snow. Twinkle rushed forward and picked it up. It was Santa's glove. "He's close," she said softly. "He has to be." Inside the cave, Santa's chains clinked as he tried to move. His hands were bruised, but his spirit remained strong. Wright paced before him, muttering to himself. Mutt lay by the fire, watching silently. "Why do you hate Christmas so much?" Rin Santa asked gently. Rin froze. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he said in a low voice, "Because Christmas is for everyone except me. I used to wait for it. I used to believe, but no one ever remembered me." "Maybe," Santa said, "because you pushed everyone away before they could try." Rin turned sharply. "Lies." "No," Santa replied, "truth." Something flickered in Rin's eyes, anger or pain. Santa could not tell. Before Rin could speak again, the wind outside roared, and the sound of small, determined voices echoed into the cave. Santa, where are you?" Rin snarled, "So, they came for you. How touching." He lifted a heavy block of ice and shoved it in front of the cave entrance, trapping Santa and his rescuers inside. "Let them come," he said coldly. "Christmas ends tonight." Outside the cave, snow slammed against the mountain like white thunder. Twinkle, Zinster, Nutter, and Kipper struggled to push through the blizzard until they finally reached the cave entrance. But when they tried to step inside, they hit something solid. A wall of thick ice sealed the entrance. "He blocked it," Kipper said, pounding the ice with his fist. "Rin doesn't want us to reach Santa." Zinster pulled out a tiny hammer from his tool belt and began to smash the ice. Tuck, tuck, tuck. But no matter how hard he struck it, the ice barely cracked. Nutter tried melting it with Twinkle's magic spark, but it was enchanted with dark magic cold magic. "We need heat," Twinkle said. "Real heat. Something strong enough to break through." Nutter's eyes widened. "The North Star Fire." Everyone gasped. The North Star Fire was sacred. It burned only at the highest peak, guarded by the winter spirits. Its flame never died and was said to have the power to melt even the coldest heart. But reaching it meant climbing the frozen Fang, the tallest mountain in the Arctic. "We don't have a choice," Kipper said firmly. "If we don't hurry, Rin might." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Within minutes, they left the cave and headed across the frozen valley toward the frozen Fang. The wind screamed. Snow blinded their eyes. Still, they climbed. The mountain seemed endless, its cliffs sharp as knives. Zinster slipped once and dangled from a ledge until Nutter grabbed his hand. Twinkle used her wings to shield them from falling icicles. Kipper led the way, pulling them higher, refusing to stop. Finally, at the mountain peak, they found it a tiny blue flame floating in the air like a glowing star, warm despite the deadly cold around it. "The North Star Fire," Twinkle whispered. She reached out carefully and cupped it inside a glass lantern. The flame flickered but held. Hope returned to their hearts. They raced back down the mountain, slipping, falling, and rolling, but never letting the flame die. Inside the cave, Santa sat in silence while Rin paced angrily. "Do you hear them?" Rin growled. "They're coming! Those little helpers of yours. Why do they risk their lives for you?" "Because," Santa said softly, "they know what Christmas really means." "Oh, really?" Rin scoffed. "Candy trees singing. That's just noise and lies." Santa shook his head. "Christmas isn't about decorations or gifts. It's about belonging. It's about believing that no one has to be alone, not even you." Rin clenched his fists. "Stop saying that no one cares about me." "I care," Santa said simply. The cave fell silent. Rin stared at him, confused. His voice cracked. Why would you care about someone like me?" Santa smiled gently. "Because you needed someone to..." For a moment, Rin looked as though he might cry, but then he gritted his teeth and turned away. "It's too late to save Christmas," he muttered. "By midnight, the world will wake up to nothing. No presents, no joy." Santa looked up. "You're wrong. Christmas is already here." Suddenly crack. Light burst through the wall of ice. Rin spun around, eyes wide. Another crack and then another. A blinding blue light broke through the barrier. The ice exploded outward. There stood Kipper, Zinster, Nutter, and Twinkle lantern raised high, holding the North Star fire. "Let Santa go," Twinkle shouted. Rin backed away from the light. "Impossible," he hissed. "How did you get that flame?" "With something you don't understand," Kipper said. "And what's that?" Rin snarled. "Hope," Kipper answered. The flame shimmered brighter, melting every frostbitten shadow inside the cave. Rin threw up his hands, shielding his face. The North Star flame wasn't just heat, it was truth. Wherever it burned, lies disappeared. "Why are you doing this?" Rin shouted, voice shaking. "Why do you care so much?" "Because," Twinkle said softly, stepping forward, "Christmas belongs to everyone, even you." Rin froze. Zinster and Nutter rushed to Santa and began freeing him from the chains. Twinkle stepped closer to Rin. He shrank back, but she didn't stop. "It's not too late," she said. "You don't have to be alone tonight. Come with us." Rin's hand trembled. His eyes were full of fear, not anger, but the fear of being forgiven. He opened his mouth to speak, but a sudden blast of icy wind burst through the cave. The lantern flickered, the flame weakened. "Oh no," Twinkle gasped. "If the flame dies?" Rin looked toward the cave entrance. Outside, a snowstorm was rising unnatural, violent, dark. Something else was coming. Something worse than Rin. Because sometimes, darkness doesn't like to be replaced by light. A roar tore through the sky, shaking the walls of the cave. Snow exploded outside as if a beast had ripped open the mountain itself. Twinkle clutched the lantern tightly, shielding the North Star flame. Santa, now free from his chains, stepped forward. His face grew serious. "It has awakened," he said. "What has?" Kipper asked. Santa looked toward the storm. The shadow of winter, the ancient spirit of cold. It feeds on loneliness and fear, and someone has called it here. All eyes slowly turned toward Rin. "I didn't mean to," Rin muttered, stepping back. "I just wanted Christmas to stop. I didn't call some monster." But the truth didn't matter now. The shadow had caught the scent of despair, and it was coming for all of them. Outside, darkness shaped itself into a storm. A tall, icy figure with hollow eyes emerged from the blizzard. It towered over the mountain, its voice like cracking glaciers. "Joy does not belong here." Twinkle shook as the lantern flickered again. Zinster gripped his tiny hammer. Kipper drew a candy cane sword from his coat. Nutter hid behind Santa, squeaking. The shadow stretched its hands toward the cave. Ice spears burst from the ground. The entrance froze over again in thick white crystal. "It wants to trap us," Zinster yelled. "No," Santa said. "It wants to erase Christmas forever." The shadow's whisper slithered into the cave like black frost. "Give me the fire." Twinkle hugged the lantern closer. "He wants the North Star flame." Santa nodded grimly. "Without that flame, Christmas lights will never shine again." Rin stared at the flame, and then at the shadow. He looked torn, terrified, but something inside him shifted. He suddenly stepped between the shadow and Twinkle. "No," Rin growled. "You can't have it." The shadow seemed amused. "You defy me, little one." Rin trembled. His voice cracked, but he didn't step aside. "Christmas may be stupid," he said, "and noisy, and full of annoying songs, but it's not yours to take." The shadow raised an arm. A blast of frost shot forward, knocking Rin across the cave. He crashed against the wall and fell to his knees. "Rin," Twinkle shouted. Rin groaned, but he was alive. Santa stepped forward. His coat was torn, his beard dusted with frost, but his eyes burned with courage. "This ends now," he said. "We can't fight that thing," Zinster cried. "It's too powerful." "We don't fight it," Santa said. "We heal it." Everyone looked confused, everyone except Rin. Santa turned to him. "The shadow feeds on loneliness, because once it was alone too. That's why it came to you, Rin, because your heart called it." Rin gritted his teeth. "So this is my fault." Santa shook his head. "It's not about fault. It's about choice. You choose what happens next." Outside, the shadow roared. Ice began to crawl across the cave floor. Snow swirled violently. Surrender the fire or be erased. Twinkle looked at Rin. What do we do? Rin slowly pushed himself to his feet. His voice was barely a whisper. We share it. Santa smiled. Exactly. He took the lantern from Twinkle and opened the glass door. The flame inside danced wildly. Santa held it out toward Rin. You started this, Santa said, so you must finish it. Rin stared at the burning blue light. He hesitated, then held out his hand. The flame floated gently from the lantern and rested above Rin's palm. It didn't burn, but it was warm. Now what Rin asked. Remember, Santa said softly, Christmas isn't about gifts. It's about giving. Share what is inside you. Rin stepped to the cave entrance. The ice closed in around him. He held the flame high. The shadow roared again. You are nothing. Rin trembled. Thoughts swirled through his mind, memories of cold winters alone, nights without laughter, silent birthdays, empty holidays. But then, Twinkle's voice, Zinster's stubborn will, Nutter's loyalty, Kipper's bravery, Santa's kindness. I may have been alone, Rin shouted through the storm, but I won't be anymore, because someone finally saw me. Someone finally cared. He thrust the flame forward. And now I care too. The North Star fire exploded. Light surged out like a sunrise, wrapping around the shadow, melting the icy darkness piece by piece. The creature screamed not in anger, but in sorrow. As it melted, its true form was revealed a small, lonely spirit made of frost, trembling, lost. Rin knelt beside it. Instead of fear, he showed something else, compassion. It's okay, he said. You don't have to be alone anymore. The tiny frost spirit blinked and then smiled. With a final shimmer, it turned into a snowflake and floated gently into Rin's hand. He closed his fingers around it, held it to his heart, and the storm cleared. The sky opened above them. Stars filled the night once again. Twinkle looked around in wonder. Zinster dropped his hammer. Nutter wiped his nose. Kipper grinned. Santa placed a hand on Rin's shoulder. Well done. Rin took a shaky breath. So, what now? We go home, Santa said. Rin looked toward Holly Valley, the place he once hated. Maybe now, it could be different. The journey back to Holly Valley felt different from the way there. The wind no longer bit with cold cruelty. It felt gentle, almost playful, swirling around them like dancing ribbons of snow. The northern lights glowed above the horizon, rippling in green and gold across the sky as if celebrating the return of hope. Santa rode at the front of the sleigh once again. But this time something was new. Someone sat beside him. Rin. He sat stiffly at first, unsure if he belonged there. But Mutt rested his head in Rin's lap, and that gave him courage. Behind them, Kipper and Zinster talked excitedly, pointing at the stars. Nutter snored loudly in the bag of toys, exhausted from the long journey. Twinkle hovered near the sleigh rails, watching Rin quietly, her wings glowing softly in the night. As they approached Holly Valley, lights began to flicker one by one. Word had spread. Santa was safe. The sleigh had returned. Suddenly, bells rang across the valley. Elves poured out of their homes cheering. Fairies flew through the air in bright circles. The reindeer landed on a carpet of snow and immediately pranced proudly, shaking their antlers. Santa stepped off the sleigh and the crowd rushed toward him. Santa, you're alive. Where did you go? We were so worried. Mrs. Cookie burst into tears and hugged Santa so tightly he had to catch his balance. The elves clung to his coat, laughing and crying at the same time. The whole valley had feared that Christmas was lost forever. Now joy was overflowing like a winter river. Then the crowd suddenly fell silent. They had seen Rin. The villagers stiffened, eyes narrowed, voices whispered. What is he doing here? He tried to ruin Christmas. He kidnapped Santa. Rin froze. The warmth in his chest turned to ice again. He stepped back from the sleigh. He didn't belong here. He shouldn't have come. He turned to leave, but Santa gently took a step forward and placed a hand on Rin's shoulder. "No," Santa said firmly. "He stays." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Rin stared at Santa, startled. Santa continued, his voice calm but strong. "Yes, Rin made a mistake. He hurt many of us. He nearly destroyed Christmas, but he also saved it. Courage is not about never doing wrong. Courage is choosing to do what is right when it matters most." Twinkle stepped forward. He fought the shadow of winter. He risked his life to protect the flame. "He saved Santa," Zinster added. "And he saved us," Kipper said. Nutter popped out of a gift bag and raised a tiny hand. "I like him." He squeaked, slowly, carefully. Mutt walked over to stand at Rin's side. The villagers watched as the loyal dog pressed himself against his master, refusing to let him stand alone. The sight softened something inside them. A small elf girl stepped out from the crowd. Her hair was tied with tiny red ribbons, and she held a candy cane in her mitten. She walked up to Rin, hesitated, then held it out to him shyly. "Merry Christmas," she whispered. Rin stared at the candy cane as if it was something sacred. Then, for the first time in many, many winters, he smiled. A cheer burst across the valley. Music returned to the air. Bells jingled again, lights sparkled across rooftops. Fireworks exploded in the sky like stars celebrating. The joy of Christmas returned brighter than ever, not because of gifts or decorations, but because a lonely heart had found its way home. That night, Holly Valley held the biggest celebration they had ever known. The elves rebuilt the Christmas tree in the town square, decorating it with ribbons of gold and ornaments made from stardust. The reindeer played games with the children. Twinkle used her magic to create snow lanterns that floated through the air like glowing wishes. Zinster challenged Kipper to a snowball duel. Nutter ate 5 pies, maybe 6. And Rin, he stood beside Santa at the heart of it all, not as an enemy, but as a friend. When the clock struck midnight, Santa stepped onto the stage and raised a hand for silence. "This Christmas," he said, "we did more than deliver gifts. We found something more valuable than toys, more powerful than magic. We found forgiveness, we found hope, and we learned that no one is beyond redemption." He turned to Rin and handed him a small box wrapped in red velvet. "This is for you," Santa said. Rin opened it slowly. Inside was a simple silver bell, the kind Santa placed only on the harness of his most trusted reindeer. "It rings," Santa said, "for those who finally believe." Rin closed his eyes. The bell rang clear and pure as falling snow. And at last he believed. From that night on, Rin was no longer feared. He rebuilt his life brick by brick. He helped repair toys in the workshop. He learned to wrap gifts badly at first. He even carved wooden sleds for children who couldn't afford one. And every Christmas Eve, he rode beside Santa in the sleigh not as a prisoner, but as a guardian of Christmas. Because sometimes the ones who try to steal joy are the ones who need it most. And in the end, Christmas doesn't live inside gifts or songs or shining lights. It lives inside hearts, the hearts that choose kindness, the hearts that choose hope, and the hearts brave enough to forgive. Thank you for listening to this story on Learn English with Sara. If you enjoyed this story and would love to hear more meaningful lessons through storytelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below and tell us what this story meant to you. See you in the next video.